I remember the time, 3-4 years back, when I struggled so much with figure drawing. I was always intrigued by how pro artists were able to draw character poses so effortlessly. But when I copied from these artists, my drawing just wasn't there. I was like, why do my figure drawings look so bad? Am I missing something? I really needed to know what was going on. So I watched a lot of tutorials, and by that, I mean a whole lot of them. Some of them worked and gave me an idea about the areas where I needed to work on, and there were also some that got me even more confused. But there was this one thing that really changed my approach to the figure drawing, and that was the gesture. I really see it to be a game changer for me. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. I am Sketchify. I'm a digital artist and I make tutorials related to character art as well as the anime style. And yes, today I'll be talking about gesture drawing and how it can help you to get better at figure drawing, just like it helped me. So let's begin. First of all, what is a gesture drawing? Let's look at some examples. As you can see here, gesture drawing is like a basic framework upon which the whole figure is constructed. What we're looking for in a gesture are the major parts of the human anatomy, such as the head, ribcage, pelvis, etc. We look at the angle, orientation and position in relation to each other and then draw them onto the canvas using simple curves. Let's start by learning some stuff about human anatomy. If we look at our surroundings, everything that the nature has created is about balance. Everything comes in pairs, yin and yang, fire and water, men and women, and so on. Even when we look at the human figure, it's all about balance. Let's take a look at the front view. Here you can see that the figure is balanced between the hard and soft forms. The large, bony structure of head, ribcage, and pelvis are separated by muscle and fleshy parts of the neck and the stomach. If you look at the side view, you can see that the head is suspended over the ribcage by a forward angle of the neck. The neck and the head are balanced by the ribcage, which pushes at an opposite angle. This similar relationship exists between the ribcage and the pelvis, placed at an opposite angle to each other. And finally the legs, which are in the shape of an S curve, thus balancing the whole body. Moving on, let's look at the main elements of the human body. When developing the gesture, these are the parts you need to focus on. As you can see here, these main parts include the head, spine, ribcage, pelvis, and the limbs. In the side view, you can see the placement and the orientation of these parts, reinforcing the idea of balance that we just discussed. This is essentially what allows us to stand straight without falling over. Here I have simplified the shapes of these elements. For example, I'm using an X shape for the ribcage and a bowl-like shape for the pelvis. You must have learned things like spine is one of the most important parts of our body, or sometimes even insults like that guy lacks a spine. And indeed, everyone should have a spine, whether anatomically or by virtue. Even in the gesture drawing, spine is important as it connects the head, ribcage, and the pelvis, and is thus responsible for the organization and balancing of these three major muscles. All the poses that you can think of in a figure are majorly a product of what's the orientation of the spine. Here you can see that the design of the spine resembles an S curve. You can see it from the front 3x4 view, side view, and the back 3x4 view. If you imagine the spine to be a long cylindrical tube, this is what it looks like from the different views. I have also illustrated its shape when broken down into smaller cylindrical tubes. This will help you to understand the perspective and the three-dimensionality of the spine. Now if you look at these drawings, you'll get the idea. Here you can see clearly how the spine affects the three masses, especially the ribcage and the pelvis. There are lots of skeletal structures and muscles involved in this area. Also, it is where the upper body meets the lower body. So it is important to understand the relation between the ribcage and the pelvis, as it will help you to create believable poses. I believe now you guys must have gotten some idea about the human anatomy and how the major masses are positioned. So let's look at how a gesture is drawn. We'll be using simplified shapes for the major masses and simple curves like C and S for the limbs as well as the general contour. So here I have this image which I'll use as a reference for my gesture. So we'll start with the head. Remember, we're not going for the details here. The purpose of the gesture is to express the emotions and flow of the body without going into each anatomical detail. Here, if you look from the head to the pelvis, the flow can be described as a C curve. Now the shoulder line, the arm, if you look from his chest to his knee, it looks like an S curve. From the knee to the feet, again an S curve. Now, moving on to the other side. In a gesture, start with establishing the contour of the pose using simple curves. On the right side, the leg is going backward. We'll draw the contour from the chest to the feet on this side as well. You can even look at the shape of the negative space between the legs as a cue to get your contour right. Now we'll look for the major masses such as the ribcage and the pelvis. I'll start with the curve of the ribcage and from here draw the rest of its shape. In humans, the size of the ribcage is something like 1.5 times the size of the head. It might not be same for everyone and vary from person to person, but in my opinion, it's quite helpful as it gives me a starting point for the ribcage and looks convincing enough. Now the pelvis. Here, we'll have to keep in mind how the spine affects both the ribcage and pelvis, positioning both with a slight tilt. Of course, this is a lot of information to remember, so do not shy away from keeping references at hand. Even now, I keep a lot of reference images of all kinds, such as human anatomy, poses, hair references, etc. I do not know about you guys, but I forget things all the time, so this is quite helpful. Now, back to the upper body. The chest, traps, if you look at the arms, both arms are going backwards, and we can show this backward position of the arms and create a sense of 3D space and perspective. Now, if you imagine the arm into two cylindrical tubes and put wrapping lines along its length, it will look something like this. The important part is to check whether the form is moving towards you or away from you, and then draw the wrapping lines accordingly. We can do this with legs as well. This leg is in the front and hence positioned towards us. So the wrapping lines will be something like this. The other leg is moving away from us, so the wrapping lines will follow the contour accordingly. You'll also notice the closer the leg gets towards us, the straighter the wrapping lines get. The more you'll practice these wrapping lines, the more easily you'll be able to see them. I think we're done here, so let's try this with another reference. So now I have a female reference here. Again, we'll start with the circle for the head. If you're thinking, do I always have to start with the head? Then no. I start with the head because I find it easier that way. You can start wherever you feel comfortable. Now, just like the previous gesture, we'll start laying out the basic curves that we can see in the reference pose. From her left elbow to the leg, I can see an S curve. As you guys start practicing this more and more, you can even challenge yourself with time limits like 1 minute gestures and 2 minute gestures. Here you'll have to make your drawings such a way that you can tell what the pose is about. This will help you to learn to go only for the details that are necessary because you have to finish it within the time limit. It's quite fun, once you get a hang of it. Now, I'll go for the ribcage and the pelvis. As you can see here, her body is bending to the left side. So the left corners of the ribcage and the pelvis will be closer while the right ones will be farther. Again, we'll use the wrapping lines on the limbs to show the perspective and a sense of space. So guys, here we have our gesture. One last reference here. I like this reference particularly because there are a lot of varying lines that you can see in this reference, making it a lot more expressive. So starting with the head, the C curve from her head to her pelvis. Honestly, you can leave this gesture drawing here and one can pretty easily tell what the pose is. This is what the gesture will help you to learn, which is boiling down a pose to its most essential forms. But since I'm not short on time here, I'll go ahead with a little bit of details. I'll suggest that you make sure to identify the position of the ribcage and the pelvis. These parts are important when you're drawing the detailed figure. You should also look at anatomical references such as skeletal system, muscular system, etc. in both male and female. This way, you can connect what I talked about in this video to the real anatomy and understand it better. And finally, we have our gesture for this pose as well. So guys, this is it for now. I know this is a lot to take in one go, so you can watch this video again if you need to. Practice it with different references, variety of poses, and nude figures if possible. I say practice it daily if you can. I do it. Sometimes I miss it when I'm working on some other stuff, but I come back to it eventually. You don't have to do it for hours and hours. 15 to 30 minutes will be enough. With that said, I hope you found this video helpful, and if you want to see more of my content, make sure to like and subscribe. See you in the next video. Bye.